asked most people to picture an American car from the 1950s. They will describe something enormous. Chrome, tail fins, a sofa for a back seat. Beautiful, certainly, but slow. Soft, a boat. Something that wallowed down a straight road and fell over in the corners. And every part of that picture is wrong. Because in the 1950s, American cars were quietly, brutally fast. Faster than most of what Europe was building. And the fastest of them were not sports cars at all. They were sedans, family cars, with 4 doors and a bench seat and a radio. These are the fastest American cars of the 50s. And you are not going to believe the last one. Before we start, there is something you need to understand about the numbers. Because the story of this decade begins with a single measurement. 1 horsepower for every cubic inch of engine. It sounds like a small thing. It was not. For decades, it had been the mark that separated a road engine from a racing engine. Get 1 horsepower out of every cubic inch and you had crossed a line. And in 1957, Chevrolet announced that it had done it. The Corvette. 283 cubic inches, 283 horsepower. The advertising was enormous. The headlines were enormous. America was told again and again that Chevrolet had got there first. Except that Chevrolet had not got there first. Chrysler had done it a full year earlier, in 1956, and almost nobody remembers. Hold on to that. We will come back to it. Let us begin. Number 8. The 1957 Plymouth Fury. Plymouth was the cheap brand, the sensible brand, the one your uncle bought. And in 1956, it did something out of character. It built a car called the Fury, and it painted every single one of them white. White paint, gold anodized trim down the flank, and nothing else. It looked like a slightly smug family sedan. Underneath, it was not. For 1957, the Fury carried an engine Plymouth called the V800. 318 cubic inches. Not a Hemi. Chrysler's other divisions had those, Plymouth did not. Instead, it used a polyspherical head, a cheaper design, and made it work anyway. 2 4-barrel Carter carburetors on a cast iron manifold. A hotter camshaft, higher compression, dual exhaust. 290 horsepower, in the cheapest car the company made. That is the theme of this entire decade, and we have barely started. Number 7. The 1957 Rambler Rebel. And here we have to be careful, because we will come back to this car at the very end. For now, know only this. American Motors was the smallest of the American manufacturers. It sold small, sensible, economical cars to people who wanted small, sensible, economical cars. It was the opposite of Detroit XS. And in 1957, it lost its mind. It took its lightest 4-door body and it dropped in a 327 cubic inch V8. 255 horsepower, solid lifters, 9.5 to 1 compression, a Carter 4-barrel on top. And it painted it silver with a gold spear down the side so you would know it was different. Motor Trend took it to the track. And what they found made the entire industry uncomfortable. But we are not there yet. Number 6. The 1957 Ford Thunderbird, the F-code. Ford had a problem in 1957. Chrysler's Hemis were enormous, Chevrolet had fuel injection, and Ford's 312 cubic inch V8 was, on paper, outgunned. So Ford did not build a bigger engine. It bolted a supercharger onto the one it had. A Paxton centrifugal blower, forcing air into the engine under pressure. The result was 300 horsepower from a relatively small V8, and Ford put a letter in the serial number so you would know. The letter was F. People called them F-birds. And here is the part that makes collectors go pale. Ford built 194 of them. 194 in the whole world. A supercharged factory, Thunderbird, in 1957, and almost nobody could get one. Number 5. The 1956 Studebaker Golden Hawk. Studebaker was dying. Everybody knew it. The company was running out of money, running out of time, and running out of ideas. So it did the only thing a dying company can do. It gambled. Studebaker had merged with Packard, and Packard had a magnificent engine. 352 cubic inches, 275 horsepower. It was heavy, it was enormous, and Studebaker crammed it into a light, pretty coupe. The result had one of the best power-to-weight ratios of any American car built that year. And in July 1956, a magazine called Speed Age decided to settle an argument. It took 4 cars to a track. The Studebaker Golden Hawk, the Chrysler 300B, a Ford Thunderbird, and a Chevrolet Corvette. 4 of the fastest things America could sell you. And the little Studebaker beat all 3. 0 to 60 in 7.8 seconds, the quarter mile in 17.01. Quickest of the 4. The Corvette lost, the Thunderbird lost, the mighty Chrysler lost, to a car from a company that was going out of business. Number 4. The 1957 Chevrolet Corvette, the fuelie. Now we come to the famous one. For 1957, Chevrolet offered its new 283 cubic inch V8, and it offered something almost unheard of on an American road car: mechanical fuel injection. Not electronic, mechanical. A Rochester system that measured the air going in and metered the fuel to match. No carburetor float bowls, no fuel sloshing about under hard cornering. And with it, the little V8 made 283 horsepower. 283 cubic inches. 283 horsepower. 1 horsepower per cubic inch. Chevrolet's advertising department could not believe its luck. The claim went everywhere. It is still repeated today. And it deserves respect. It was a genuinely brilliant engine. It just was not first. Number 3. The 1957 DeSoto Adventurer. DeSoto is a brand almost nobody remembers now. It was Chrysler's middle child, not cheap enough to be Plymouth, not grand enough to be Chrysler. And in 1957, it built one of the most extraordinary cars of the decade. The Adventurer? A Hemi V8 of 345 cubic inches, with 2 4-barrel carburetors, and an output of 345 horsepower. Read those two numbers again. 345 cubic inches, 345 horsepower, 1 horsepower per cubic inch. The exact same milestone Chevrolet was shouting about. In the same model year, and DeSoto barely mentioned it. The car was gold and white and enormous and beautiful, and almost nobody bought one because it cost $4,000. Today, it is one of the great forgotten cars of the era. Number 2, the 1957 Chrysler 300C. And now we arrive at the monster. The 300-letter series was Chrysler's answer to a simple question. What if we built a luxury car and gave it a full racing engine? Not a sporty engine, a racing engine. For 1957, the 300C carried the largest Hemi Chrysler had. 392 cubic inches, 2 4-barrel carburetors, a racing camshaft, and an enormous, brutal power output. 375 horsepower. In 1957, that was more than a Ferrari at the same year could offer, and you could order it as a convertible with leather seats and a radio and air conditioning. A car that could out-accelerate almost anything in Europe and take 4 adults to dinner in silence. It cost $4,930, an enormous amount of money, about the price of 2 ordinary family cars. But the 300C did not start the story. His grandfather did, and that is where the truth about the horsepower race actually lies. In 1955, Chrysler built a car called the C300. It took a big luxury body and installed the 331 cubic inch firepower Hemi. Then it added 2 4-barrel Carter carburetors. And then it did something no manufacturer would dare to do today. It installed a full race camshaft, straight from the racing program, into a car you could buy. The result was exactly 300 horsepower. It was the first American production car to reach 300 horsepower, and it went straight to NASCAR and destroyed everything. 27 victories in its first year alone. Not modified, not tuned, almost exactly as it left the showroom. And then came 1956 and the 300B. The Hemi grew to 354 cubic inches. The standard car made 340 horsepower, but you could order an option, a higher compression ratio, 10:1. And with that option, the engine made 355 horsepower, 354 cubic inches, 355 horsepower, more than 1 horsepower per cubic inch. In 1956, a full year before Chevrolet said a word. Think about what that means. The most famous engineering claim in American car history, the 1 horsepower per cubic inch, the Corvette, the advertisements, the magazine covers, the legend. Chrysler had already done it. Quietly, in an expensive luxury coupe that hardly anybody bought, and because Chrysler did not shout, the world gave the credit to Chevrolet. It is one of the great pieces of forgotten history in this entire industry. The engineers won. The advertising department took the trophy. So that is 7 cars. The Plymouth, the Thunderbird, the Studebaker, the Corvette, the DeSoto, the Chryslers. Big engines, big money, big names. And now we come to number 1. And number 1 is not any of these. Number 1 is a Rambler. Go back to the Rambler Rebel sitting quietly at number 7. 255 horsepower in a light 4-door body from the smallest company in America. That was the car they actually sold you. But it was not the car American Motors had planned. The car they planned had something no other production car in the world had. Electronic fuel injection, not the mechanical system Chevrolet used, electronic. a system called the Bendix Electrojector. Sensors reading the engine, a control box making decisions, injectors firing electronically. This is, in principle, exactly how every petrol car on Earth works today. And American Motors was going to put it in a family Rambler in 1957, 11 years before Volkswagen would make it work. They rated the fuel-injected engine at 288 horsepower. And Motor Trend got hold of one and took it to the track. And what happened next is the reason this car is #1. From a standing start, the fuel-injected Rambler Rebel was faster than the fuel-injected Corvette. The fastest accelerating American car of 1957 was, very nearly, a Rambler, a four-door economy sedan, from the company that sold sensible cars to sensible people. So, what happened? Two things, and both of them are painful. The first was engineering. The Electrojector was ahead of its time, and time had not caught up. In warm weather, it worked. It ran beautifully. But when the temperature dropped, it would not start. The electronics of 1957 simply were not up to it. It needed transistors that did not exist yet, and reliability that nobody knew how to build. And so, in the end, no fuel-injected Rambler Rebel was ever delivered to a customer. Not one. And the second reason is worse. The men running American Motors did not want it. Their entire business, their entire identity, was built on selling small, sensible, economical cars. And now their engineers had handed them the fastest car in America. That was not the message they wanted. It was not the brand they had spent years building. They did not want customers worrying that AMC was making the fastest car on the highway. So the fastest car in America was quietly put away. And the world had to wait another 11 years for electronic fuel injection to arrive properly. In a small, boxy Volkswagen. Look at what this decade actually was. Chrysler putting a full racing camshaft into a luxury car and selling it over the counter. Ford supercharging a Thunderbird and building 194 of them. A dying Studebaker beating the Corvette and the Chrysler on the same afternoon. DeSoto reaching 1 horsepower per cubic inch and barely mentioning it. And the smallest company in the country building the fastest car in the country and hiding it. And then, in June of 1957, it stopped. The Automobile Manufacturers Association agreed that its members would step away from motorsport. No more factory racing, no more advertising horsepower and speed. The horsepower race, officially, was over. Of course it was not really over, it went underground and it came back in the 60s and everybody knows that story. But the wild, open, extraordinary years when a family sedan could outrun a European sports car and the fastest car in America could be a Rambler ended almost overnight. So the next time somebody tells you that American cars of the 50s were slow, that they were nothing but chrome and fins and soft suspension, remember the numbers. 300 horsepower in 1955, 355 in 1956, 375 in 1957, and a 4-door Rambler that very nearly beat a Corvette. They were not slow. We just forgot.